abusers will sabotage their partner's birth control in an effort to exert power and control over them. The attempt to control and sabotage a victim's reproductive care and control over themselves then becomes mass adopted by overwhelmingly, frankly, cisgender male state legislatures.
They simply put safe and necessary abortion care out of reach for our most vulnerable, specifically our lowest income sisters, our queer, trans, and non-binary siblings, Black, Latinx, AAPI, immigrants, disabled, and indigenous folks.
Will you commit to ending Finsta?
Senator, again, let me explain. We don't actually do Finsta.
It's Facebook, correct?
Finsta is slang for a type of account.
Okay,
It's
will
not-
you
it's
end
not
that
a
type of account?
I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're asking.
Because we're in the middle of a pandemic, which, by the way, we would have made progress on had the former president actually addressed the pandemic and not suggested people inject bleach.
By the way, really, the hidden part of that Jen Psaki little blowover right there is that she said we would have made progress.
Yeah. The reason everything's wrong with the Biden administration is because Trump did a bad job. So.
And to go to the, you know what, we would have done fine had the Border Patrol not whipped the Haitians. We would have done fine with the pandemic had Trump not told people to inject bleach. So now they're just using these events, these fake, vapor events, as if they're not only real, but they're the reasons that this administration is so impaired. Just can't dig itself out of the monstrosities of the Trump administration. It's remarkable. It's
weird because I seem to remember things being better under the Trump administration.
Right. Well, considering they're saying that, and they're saying, well, if Republicans have any ideas, we'd like to hear them. You get the feeling that the brain trust spitball sessions have come to a slow trickle in this administration, being out of ideas.
Right.
I mean, where are the big brains to come and say, I mean, not only on policy issues, this is what we should do, but where are the big brains that can come and say, okay, we need to communicate to the American people that this is the direction, this is what. I mean, Bill Clinton brought in Dick Morris to a Republican pollster at the time to try to figure out how to make wins out of his cross ambitions with Newt Gingrich, and he did, but Clinton had to moderate and triangulate and whatever, and kind of abscond with parts of the Republican agenda. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe this is something that, if there's anything left of anybody there, that Biden will do after the midterms, if he cares to. I don't know what he wants anymore. But after the midterms, if things continue the way they are, that it's going to be a very different landscape. And unfortunately, a landscape with Kevin McCarthy in it.
Well, right. And I think that that's what Biden would prefer, honestly, because then he can say, like, oh, couldn't do what I wanted to do because these have to work with the Republicans. Like, now they have the Senate and the House, and he can't figure it out because I don't think they were expecting to get those Georgia seats necessarily.
No.
And this is like the worst situation for them because obviously everybody said, like, for the government shutdown thing, people had said back when it was Trump, like, how can they be threatening a government shutdown when they control all three, and when they control Congress and the presidency? How is that possible? How can they possibly have a shutdown when they're in charge of everything? Well, like, now who's in charge of everything and they might have a shutdown, whatever. But, I mean, Biden is not having a great month and a half to 2 months right now, and it doesn't seem like it's about to get better in any way. So yeah, I mean, like, what are they going to do? There's a long time before the new Congress gets in there. There's a year and a half before he has a new Congress, and things aren't looking good. Like, everything gets worse every day. Like, what is he going to do for the next, 16 months while he waits to have a Republican Congress so he can pretend to work with them and get wins,
Well, there's nothing about what they're doing now that makes it look like they're softening the ground to work across the aisle. I mean, if anything, this administration is creating a grassroots movement to shut him down.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not to work with him.
I think they consider working with Manchin and Sinema working across the aisle.
Right. And in the fact that now you've got him, this administration, pushing around law enforcement, making up lies about Border Patrol people, etc., abandoning people in Afghanistan, and resulting in just merely out of politics, getting a bunch of soldiers killed, getting a family in Afghanistan. These are just for politics. All this malevolent stuff, this push to, with all these mandates, which are pushing people out of the healthcare industry and out of other places, etc. These mandates, this was not something last year that was considered an acceptable measure.
No way. No way. Everybody said, including Biden, that there wouldn't be mandates. That was part of the deal. Everybody said the mandates aren't going to be necessary. We're not going to need mandates. We're not going to mandate anybody. And now it's like, well, because you didn't get vaccinated, now we have to mandate you. So we're not going to mandate it as long as you all do it.
As far as softening the ground to work together, it's not just the mandates. It's the way he sold them and the way he cast one half of the country as threatening the lives of the other half. Saying this is a battle versus the unvaccinated versus the vaccinated.
We've losing patience.
Right, we've lost patience with you, etc. I mean, that's very cynical and dark stuff. That kind of rhetoric from a leader is very cynical and dark. And it creates divisions totally and utterly. And a lot of people who were already half in anyway, who stood up during town meetings and said, I'm wearing a mask for you, and I have this PhD in this, and you should wear a mask because I know it. Those people who are already willing to engage in antagonistic measures against their own neighbors now, those people have just been given the green light by their president. Okay, keep going. So now, then you have people saying, yes, I'd like you to stop teaching critical race theory and the 1619 Project to my kid, and getting yelled at and trampled on, and then the same people who are going together saying we'd like to not wear masks, being pushed around and called threats, etc. And this is happening like I do it in Connecticut here, where it's more and more. They're going on their Facebook pages and calling them racist and this and that, and it's like vile stuff. The pushback these parents are getting, I can tell you one thing, the groups are growing. The parental groups are growing. There were even things that you would think wouldn't matter. There's this particular high school where they've had elementary school where they haven't had to, because of COVID measures, they've had to cut the recess, so it's just 2 10-minute recesses instead of one 30-minute one, because they can't find a way around it with the cohorts and this and that. We just can't do it because of COVID. Anyway, those parents have started to protest all day and stay in front of the school. And maybe it's a dozen, maybe it's 17, whatever. But that's a 17% increase, and it's only growing. And they're getting attention. And you've had around the country now, and certainly in Connecticut, you've had in Connecticut, you've had this. I've talked to these moms. These are moms who aren't protesters. These are concerned moms who are new to this stuff. I heard some of the chants they had to this. This is the chant of the of the mother and the people who want to have their recesses back. Reinstate recess. Reinstate recess. The other one is
it's not that catchy.
No. Mask breaks are not recess. Is another one. Like that's okay. That's not. This is what democracy looks like.
It's not quite hey ho ho.
No. So they're new to this stuff, and now this new grassroots movement of young moms, etc., is being pushed around and bullied. And in Connecticut, and this is happening in most states, the Democratic senators sent a stern warning to say that you don't have to, boards of education, etc., you don't have to take anything from these people. If they raise their voices or seem threatening, because these are the baby steps to essentially violence. You don't have to take it. So they're casting these mothers as in polite society as potential terrorists, etc. So when you start doing that to a grassroots movement, there's a part of a person that goes all in and says, oh yeah? Well, F you. And that's why, and I'm glad you got this audio, when Psaki was asked about this today.
Well, this has a lead up to it. Can I?
Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So, because this is happening, and I've talked about this on the 1570 Project, which I swear and promise there will be a new episode this week. I swear to you. But I've talked about this, about people showing up at school boards, and that's like one of the first signs of a grassroots thing happening, because that's close to people's lives. It impacts them. And when people start to care about what goes on at the school board meetings, then you know that you can have some shakeups happening. So obviously the people on the school boards don't like when people show up to the school board meetings and don't like what they're doing. Because they're very important public officials with a very important job to do, and they don't like when the public tries to be in the way of that, the public that elects them. So, they've been complaining and whining about it. Turtle Boy had that one where the woman complained that, she wanted it to be like an anonymous vote because she felt like threatened by everybody or whatever it was. And so they don't like this. The school boards hate it. They tried to keep Matt Walsh from speaking at a school board meeting. They're like... living in fear now, the school boards, because the public is weighing in on what they do. So the National School Boards Association, which is like the advocacy group for school boards, wrote a letter today to the President of the United States saying, America's public schools and its education leaders are under immediate threat. The National School Boards Association respectfully asks federal law enforcement and other assistance to deal with the growing number of threats of violence and acts of intimidation occurring across the nation. Now, threats of violence is one thing, but if people showing up and talking at your meeting is an act of intimidation, then maybe don't run for office, because that's part of how this works. The letter asked the federal government to investigate, intercept, and prevent current threats and acts of violence against public school officials through existing statutes, executive authority, interagency and intergovernmental task forces, and other extraordinary measures to ensure the safety of our children and educators, and to preserve public school infrastructure and campuses. The letter cites more than 20 examples of threats, harassment, disruption, and acts of intimidation that have transpired during school board meetings and are targeted at school officials. While local and state enforcement agencies have worked hard to protect public school officials and restore order, some jurisdictions need assistance, especially monitoring threat levels. The National School Board Association asks that a joint effort be undertaken among federal law enforcement agencies, state and local law enforcement, and public school officials to focus on threats made during public school board meetings, especially through the Postal Service, across social media and other online platforms, and around personal property. So they're asking the FBI to start monitoring people who show up at school board meetings.
Absolutely.
That's where we are right now. That's what's happening.
The National School Boards Association has sent a letter to the president asking for help from federal law enforcement agencies because of the violence and the threats that they're seeing across the country. Has the president received that request, and are you considering offering that help?
Well, first let me say we take the security of public servants and elected officials across the country very seriously, and obviously these threats to school board members is horrible. They're doing their jobs. Obviously there are going to be different law enforcement authorities that will be related to each community and where this is happening, so we'd certainly refer you to them about any specific threats, and we'd encourage individuals to report any threats they face to local and state law enforcement agencies, and we're continuing to explore what more can be done from across the administration, but again, a lot of this will be local law enforcement and how they can help ensure these school board members feel protected.
The National School Boards Association has sent a letter to the president.
So that's it.
Where is it? Okay, hold on. Sorry about that.
Federal law enforcement.
That's amazing. What are they trying to do?
The executive branch is now looking at ways they can get involved to try and, haunt you with the FBI if you dare to go to a school board meeting and tell them you don't want critical race theory, or you want your kid to be able to breathe freely during the day, or to be able to have recess, or whatever it is. Can you imagine? Like, school boards are supposed to be the most direct form of control you have over your government, right? Like, you would think it directly impacts your life.
Right.
You should be able to go there and tell them about what's going on with your kid and feel represented there, and like you have a voice at your school board. It's where we put an enormous amount of our tax dollars. It's the idea that doing that makes you some kind of domestic terrorist and puts you on a watch list, and that's how they see it. I mean, like, one of the tweets replying to this that I flagged, because I was like, whoa, somebody said, it's not the Capitol they're attacking next. It's your local school boards. It's your high school. They are your neighbors. They are terrorists. They are right next door. But But that's what people think.
Isn't it amazing that when they and their college-aged kids when they last year were part of the Black Lives Matter, all that crazy riot of stuff happening, and all the Black Lives Matter stuff was happening, they didn't see that. And when their college-aged kids were yelling at black police officers, calling them white supremacists last year, they didn't see that. And when their college-age kids were throwing bottles of piss at cops' heads, they didn't see that. And when their kids were doing Occupy whatever, they didn't see that. But when somebody with a different view on any subject uses a precisely appropriate forum
shows
to
up
express concerns,
public
that
comment.
they absolutely see. That's an attack. That is violence being visited upon them.
Yeah, and they should be on an FBI watch list, probably a no-fly list, and get red flagged to take their guns away, everything else, right? Like, that's what they want. Dangerous territory, that's for sure. The idea that they're asking the FBI to monitor people's social media because they go to school board meetings and complain about masks or complain about, pronouns or boys and girls locker rooms or whatever is, this is new territory that we're entering here as a nation, I would say. And especially because it's like going around and bypassing the states, right? Because so you have a state like Florida that's ostensibly free because it's under Governor Ron DeSantis. And, and the school boards in liberal counties are calling out to the Biden administration for help because of DeSantis's mean laws that allow students to opt out of wearing a mask. And, if the federal government steps in here and goes after Florida citizens, I don't think Ron DeSantis is going to stand for that if they start, putting people on FBI lists in Florida because they're going to their school board meetings. That seems crazy to me.
Right.
Ron DeSantis, by the way, great attack ad on him today by the group Remove Ron.
I saw it, but I didn't see it. I'll grab it.
Basically, it's a bunch of people in an airplane, and the flight attendant starts telling them that they're about to land in Florida. And so basically they're
hold
like,
on, let me get there.
I don't understand why they think it's a scary ad, but.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of your cabin crew.
Hold on. The heavy bass and cavernous echo that happens, can we leave that alone for a little bit? Because we get it, okay? Not everything's a freaking movie trailer. I get it.
We'd like to inform you that we have officially entered Florida airspace. Now that we're making our final descent, please watch this short message from Governor Ron DeSantis on COVID-19. Thereafter, everyone on board will be required to comply with the state's Forever Purge.
We are
Forever Purge. So it's supposed to be like the Purge movies where you can kill people, but get it forever.
I missed those, unfortunately. I must have missed 60 Minutes.
We're not doing any vaccine passports in the state of Florida.
Ooh.
We trust people to make their
They're watching the TV in front of them. It's grainy and it's
own decisions in this state. We are not going to be bludgeoning people with restrictions and mandates.
Wait, I just saw a bonfire. I don't even know what that's from. The famous Florida bonfires that DeSantis ordered.
Lockdowns or any of that stuff.
As Governor DeSantis stated, while you're within state lines, you do not have to wear a mask.
It says over 50,000 dead. It's wow, freaking pretty dark commercial.
You do not have to get a vaccine. It is against the law for private businesses or schools to mandate masks or vaccines. And you have the absolute right to infect whoever you want, whenever, and wherever with COVID-19. Thank you for traveling with us. And
I kind of feel, Alice, you may call me cynical, I kind of feel like they've weaponized the pandemic. Yeah.
Maybe a little, yeah.
Enjoy your Forever Purge.
COVID-19 is surging again.
This is the time to double down.
The governor is doubling down. He says students shouldn't be forced to wear masks.
If you are trying to lock people down, I'm going to stand in your way.
Florida just requested 300 new ventilators.
Hospitals are filling up here.
There is evidence that children are making up much higher cases that are emerging.
The numbers continue to rise across Florida.
This fall, don't breathe in.
This is insane.
The Forever Purge. Coming to a theater and live streaming networks near you.
I mean, can you imagine?
You got to feel pretty good if you're the DeSantis people. I got to tell you. Everything you said there was great, by the way.
Yeah, I like how they're like, ooh, scary. I'm not going to make your children wear a mask. Oh, like,
you get to choose your own decisions. It's up to you. You can live your own life. Yeah, no, I don't think.
Are they secretly? Is Remove Ron secretly like a Ron DeSantis pack?
You know what I think that? Well, it might be. I assume it's a pack.
No. It is a pack, but it's supposedly a Democrat pack that's trying to get rid of him. But I'm wondering if maybe secretly people are Republicans running it.
You make a great point, Alice, because I'm thinking about that. Having heard it, it's like what a great way to make sure Florida doesn't have a bunch of progressive a-holes coming there. It's like, I hope that works. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That's a touch of litmus
There'll
test.
be one place left. Yeah, I mean, the number of people we know who are Republicans who are trying to move to Florida gives me hope for the state to survive. But, yeah.
So do we want to play any of that abortion audio that we had? It's kind of like, you guys heard it in the open. I'll play the open dry.
I just didn't know that.
Hold on, here you go.
Abusers will sabotage their partner's birth control in an effort to exert power and control over them. The attempt.
First of all, is this a new thing, a new sex crime? That men sabotage women's birth control in order to establish power over them? Holy hell, that seems like a complicated ruse. I really want to date her.
I've heard
I really
women
want to
doing
have
that.
her under my thumb forever. Oh, let's see. I think by the time you're having sex, you've made some inroads anyway. But I'm going to make it so that men wouldn't even know how to do that with that stuff. Okay, I guess it's happening. I guess that's what's happening now. I'm going to force her to be pregnant.
I think.
You know what that
I think
is?
she's just watched too much of the show with
Handmaid's
the red
Tale?
dresses.
Yeah.
to control and sabotage a victim's reproductive care and control over themselves, then becomes...
I assume that if that is happening, that is already illegal, I assume.
I think so.
By the way, I have never heard of a guy wanting to do that.
Trying to get a girl pregnant.
Right. In fact,
I've
no.
heard of the opposite.
Right. No, a guy doesn't generally want to do that. The guy generally wants to get out of Dodge.
Yeah, I've heard of men pressuring women to get abortions.
Yes.
But not the other way around, generally.
mass adopted by overwhelmingly, frankly, cisgender male state legislatures.
They simply...
What does it matter if they're cisgender? What does that mean? Straight, right?
No, it means that you identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth.
Well, wouldn't that gender be more familiar with being husbands and fathers?
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, fine.
Well, no, because if you listen to Ayanna Pressley, says that abortion laws target queer people more than straight
safe
people.
And necessary abortion care out of reach for our most vulnerable, specifically our low...
Abortion care.
Sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? Caring, loving.
Lowest income sisters, our queer, trans, and non-binary siblings, Black, Latinx, AAPI, immigrants, disabled, and indigenous folks.
Just say indigenal. It's all horseshit anyway. Just say whatever you want. Nothing matters. Wow.
But do queer people need abortions? Generally, aren't they? I mean, I suppose sometimes in rare cases, in certain circumstances, but like usually don't queer people, aren't they less likely to need abortions than straight people?
I would think that they're almost never likely to need. I don't know, though. I don't know. You know, as a guy, we're in the habit of just trying to sabotage women's birth control so they
you
get
just
pregnant.
go around.
It's nothing more.
Sabotaging.
Be like. So,
will you commit?
Okay. So the Blumenthal thing, that is good, actually. He's asking this woman
to ending Finsta.
Senator, again, let me explain. We don't actually.
Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut is 87 years old. This lady, what's going on here?
So, okay. So basically, this was in WSJ. They did a piece on how Facebook knows that Instagram, like we were talking about yesterday, is like mentally damaging people. Yes, question in the back.
Yes, we want to know why you'd say WSJ when Wall Street Journal's just as short, if not shorter.
I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry, in the Wall Street Journal. So Facebook took issue with it, but the Wall Street Journal had some PowerPoints that they leaked, some internal decks that they had in some of their meetings that show things like that. To quote this, let's see. They talked about how teen girls say that they have a negative social comparison on Instagram. 66% of teen girls experience negative social comparison. So they go on Instagram and feel bad about how they compare to other people. 52% of the teen girls who experience negative social comparison on Instagram said it was related to the images about beauty. And 32% of teen girls said Instagram made them feel worse about their bodies. Mm-hmm. So 1 in 3 girls who's on Instagram feels worse about herself after looking at it. They know this. And they also know that this can be mentally damaging for young people. So it says that that Instagram can exacerbate an emotional spiral that mimics the stages of grief. And that...
Great.
And that they know that Instagram is triggering to young people and causing these emotional spirals. So, this was an exploratory study that they did internally at Facebook, who owns Instagram.
So what is Finsta?
So Finsta is slang that young people use. So part of the whole thing is that they have... Young people feel that there's all this like social pressure to be on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So... they have their real Instagram that they share with other people. That's like their very carefully curated images and stuff, where they take 1,000 shots to make sure everything looks like perfect the way Instagram is supposed to look. And then
is that me?
That's their real Instagram. And then they have their fake Instagram. That's like their secret account that's locked that only has like their 10 best friends on it or whatever, where they can like be more real and post their regular pictures and stuff. That's called their Finsta, and their real Instagram that they share with everybody is called their Rinsta. So a Finsta is like just your fake Instagram that you don't tell people about.
Do Finsta.
It's Facebook, correct?
Finsta is slang for a type of account.
Okay,
it's
will
not,
you end
not
that type of account?
I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're asking.
Right. So anyway, she burst into tears.
So the hearings are going well because our Senate is definitely very able to understand the issues at play in technology and how it's destroying our society. So that's good. I'm glad that they have such a keen grasp of the issues. That's nice.
So, Catoon, would you like to get to the next action item?
Sure. Now, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to leave this room in about 8 minutes.
Oh, you are?
Go
Okay.
Grab our son from soccer.
Because I was going to say that I wasn't sure. I was going to go check and see what that noise was, the door. I assume that's the back door. But should I not?
No, let's just go, and we'll be done in about 10 minutes.
I want no problemo. I want no problemo whatsoever. So let me ask you something.
Yes.
Let's say that these parent groups continue to be vilified and considered to be, potentially violent operations, etc. You know that the left is just going to like soccer players faking injuries. Oh my God, he yelled at me, etc.
Oh yeah, they've shut a bunch of these meetings down.
Right. So what happens then when Facebook starts acting and shutting certain groups down?
Yeah, like your masked friends in Connecticut or whatever.
Or any other ones in any towns, since I'm friends with one of them now, I've got 1,000 that want to, or that's telling me to hang up. So when they start shutting them all down off of Facebook, and Twitter does the same thing, but Facebook is a real place, what do these people do? What's the result? First of all, Facebook would see measurable metrics, plummeting.
Oh, yeah. Facebook is made for that kind of like community uproar stuff. That's like, It's all people that age who are all like involved in school board stuff.
So then what do those parents do?
I think they'll move to other platforms in other areas that aren't as big. I mean, like, I definitely think that Locals is a good candidate for that kind of stuff, for example, like where we are or where Jerry Callahan is, because there's because you can lock stuff so that like only people that you know or that pay a small amount of money can be in the group, and that that can provide you with like a more private experience, and you can use things like that. I think people would rather pay $5 per person, and that can go into the activism, into making signs or something, right? For the person, you organize the group on locals, you collect the $5 from each person through locals or whatever, and then you make that into yard signs, and you have a private community where everyone can post and talk, and like there's no feds in there because you've made sure that it's only like people you can vet who comes in.
Well, see, so now isn't that interesting? Because then, as you're saying, then they've lost track of you.
Right.
Because at least while you're on Facebook, they can watch you. Mm-hmm. But then they've lost track of you. And then, like a couple of the places in Connecticut, these people also meet, like at a craft brew place or whatever. So they are literally meeting, creating a social network in person as well. So, I mean, if anything, although a lot of these places, school boards, you have to sign up to speak, et cetera, so they have an idea how to allocate time, et cetera.
But who cares, honestly? I mean, speaking at school board meetings is great, but, at the end of the day, it's about elections, that stuff, and about, changing culture and getting at people like where they are, so if you're getting together with groups of people who think like you, and like we've had this happen in every place we've lived, because we live like behind enemy lines in Massachusetts. You're like trying to suss out like who's the people that are your people, sort of politically, that you'd be able to talk to if you got together, and you kind of like, when you find someone and it's like your group and you hang out all the time, where you can like talk about this stuff and be real about it and know that your opinion is safe with that group and everything, then you're really like, that's actual community organizing. And that's the type of stuff that actually changes minds. It's because, yes, then those people show up at the meeting and scare the elected officials and make the phone calls and whatever. But the work of that has to happen before. You have to let people know that stuff is happening. You have to tell people, you have to, when that thing comes up, you have to have 5 people you can call and tell them to call their state rep or show up at this school board meeting or do this or do that or get 5 people to the polls to vote or whatever it is, And like a lot of these people could get elected. They're forging the type of connections that you need to do like a local campaign to get on a school board or on a board of selectmen or a city council or whatever. That's exactly the type of thing you need, is you need people that will show up in person. There's still no substitute for like knocking on doors in person and standing out with signs on the corner in person. No substitute.
God, I would want to toss a grenade outside if somebody was knocking on my door.
I know. But like, I mean, you just might not hear about school board candidates otherwise, but like that kind of in-person organizing, if how do you know who to vote for in a school board race?
I ask you.
Exactly.
Right.
And how do like other friends that we have who don't follow stuff know who to vote for?
They ask you?
Yeah, usually, like, if we know people who aren't following stuff, that's like, so if I'm telling that not just to like 3 people who know to ask me, if I'm telling that to 150 people that I've met because we get together and talk about how annoying masks are as we have a glass of wine or whatever, then that's actually the power to change something.
We never have a glass of wine. Either we are not drinking or there are many glasses of wine.
You have a case of Trolleys and you rant about critical race theory until everybody's afraid. That's what really happens. But yeah, that's the type of like real community organizing that makes a difference. And like, yeah, people shouldn't be dependent on Facebook to do it. Facebook's a handy tool, but like we need to get out there in communities and like actually do it talking to people, because that's like, what people do. Like I went to that thing the other day at the food mart for like to raise money for the family of the Marine who was killed in Afghanistan, the local one from Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And, like I met people at that were awesome and that like I could be friends with and talk about things and that care about these issues and everything else. Like I don't know what way they vote. I didn't ask, but like, just people that care about stuff and now know me and I know them and we talked and we like made a personal connection that, you know, we would talk again. And if I were going to, for example, if I were going to like run for something, I would call up that person and let them know. You know what I mean?
Right. And by the way, her name is Marine Sergeant Johanny Rosario. She was 25 of Lawrence, who died in the attack at the airport. Does she have a GoFundMe or anything?
Her family has a GoFundMe. Yeah, that's what we were raising money towards.
I'm going to find that GoFundMe, Alice, and I'm going to
link it in the show notes.
Oh yeah. Should I keep going after you go, or am I done?
No, I think we're done.
Wow. Controlling.
Wow.
119. Wow. It was a $20,000 goal. They raised $119,000. Holy hell.
Yeah.
That is great.
It's really great.
That is great. My goodness.
That's really great. Because what a loss. What a, you know.
Man.
What a loss to the community and to the
people who
Marine
gave all this
Corps.
money. That is great.
Yeah, it was really.
Wow, what a nice. If any of you guys gave to this, what a nice tribute that is to that family. Holy hell. Nothing says appreciated like this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to make myself burst into tears in a second. I'm reading the messages.
Yeah. Okay, so.
This donation, $1,200 by a guy named Jeremy Orcutt. He says this donation is a result of quick fundraising effort put together by my motorcycle club, Vietnam Vets MC Northeast chapter, with the help from our surrounding motorcycle clubs. You know what? I take back everything I ever said about the motorcycle people. I've been saying nice things recently, but I used to hate them for that stuff. They're the best people in the world. The motorcycle people are fantastic Americans. Oh my goodness, I may have to break open a cocktail and just weep and read this. The nice things people are saying. Whew. Wow. Ms. Rosario, good evening. Although evenings going forward will never be truly good, I know you'll always, with pride that your daughter is a hero. Please take care. You know, this much make them feel, in a time when they need it. This is incredible. Oh my goodness. Oh, I am such a crybaby bitch. It's really, wow. This is great. I will put this in the show notes. It'll be absolutely fantastic. Huh. What a nice thing. What a nice. Just when you thought everybody sucks, you know what? There are some great people out there.
There's good people out there.
Right. And you guys are great people. Thank you so much for being awesome. And I know everybody listening, by the way, is a kind of equals the kind of people who are good, thoughtful members of the community and citizens as well, which is why you guys are awesome. Some of you are insane, but I like you. Those are mine. But all of you are
mine
awesome.
are thoughtful.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right, you got a bolt, kid? Are we done?
I gotta go. I have a kid who's abandoned at the soccer field, so I gotta run. Thank you so much, everyone. Tom will put that GoFundMe for Sergeant Rosario's family in the show notes. I was at a local fundraiser organized by Chip O'Connor, who's a Marine veteran as well.
Hey, Chip.
And you can find us, as usual, on Twitter, @BurnBarrelPod, Facebook.com/BurnBarrelPodcast, BurnBarrelPodcast.com. We're also BurnBarrelPodcast@gmail.com, Rumble, YouTube, all the things.
Oh, we're on
Gab, Parler,
Finsta. Isn't that what it is?
Finsta.
Finsta, that's right.
Local.